Hey YouTube, it's Rolling Stone Mechanic here. We are in the middle of deer season currently for our zone D11, and I have been pursuing Bambi relentlessly on the weekends. And so every now and then I like to check that my rifle is still sighted in, because while it's bouncing and bumping around in the back of the truck, sometimes I can throw the sights off a little bit. And when you get the opportunity to make that shot, you don't want to miss. So I'm going to show you guys how to bore sight a rifle today. Alright, so here we have my Savage Axis 30-06, my general purpose hunting rifle. And on an unrelated note, you guys may notice that I put a new top on the workbench recently. It was a little cheap workbench my dad gave to me. The top was made of some MDF board, and you can see it was starting to delaminate. Wasn't very sturdy, just not very pleasant to work with. So I glued and screwed a 3/4 inch sheet of plywood on there, made it nice and solid. Put some gussets in the back to stiffen it up. Made it 2x4s. Made it much stronger. Much nicer to work with now. So anyways, oh yeah, and also I put a magnetic strip up here to hang stuff on. Ain't that cool? So anyways, yeah, bore sighting. We're going to use the... This is just a little cheapo secondhand bore sighter I picked up off a friend for like 20 bucks. I think these things go for like, I don't know, $30, $40 new. You can find them online for, you know, pretty good deal. And it just uses these little studs right here. It comes with every caliber you might need, .177 up to 50 caliber, which in California won't be doing you much good unless you got like a scoped muzzle loader or something. So basically what you do is, here's the end that has the lens on it, and right in here there's a little set screw, and you pick out the stud, the rod, for the caliber that you have. In our case it's 30 caliber because we're bore sighting a 30-06, and you'll notice that it has a little flat spot, so you want to put that rod in there with that flat spot on the set screw so that it holds it. And you want to put it in facing, with the big end facing the scope of the rifle, because that's where your crosshairs are going to be. So let's put this together. And so you just kind of stick that in the end of the barrel there, make sure it's lined up with the scope, and then you're going to want to look through the scope. You guys probably can't see it, but you're going to want to line up, unscrew your caps, and turn the turrets of your scope until the crosshairs of your scope are lined up with the crosshairs on the bore sighter. And that should get you in close enough to the bullseye at 100 yards so that you're not shooting up a bunch of ammo to try and sight these things in. Like right here we have an example. After I mounted the scope and used the bore sighter, I was getting some pretty decent groups right off the bat at 100 yards. This group right here is 150 grain copper, and that group right there is 185 grain lead. But that's another story. Anyways, I was getting some pretty tight groups, pretty close to the bullseye at 100 yards right out of the box. And I switched targets, adjusted my dials, and started stacking them on the bullseye. But this way, you don't have to shoot up a whole bunch of boxes. So there you have it. That's how you bore sight a rifle. You could have a gunsmith do this for you. Of course, that'll cost you money. And it's much nicer, in my opinion, to be able to learn how to do it yourself and be able to... There's also the added advantage of being able to check it anytime you need to. Say you bring it home from a hunting trip or home from the range, and you want to check and make sure that your gun is still zeroed. Well, you can do that with this here. Now, there are other methods to do this, but this is the one I prefer. Now, here we have the old laser bore sighter. Now, I bought this one first before I bought the other kit, and there are other kinds of laser bore sighters. There's universal kits with like a tapered rod and different inserts, but this one I thought would be better at the time. And it's basically in the shape of a 30-06 cartridge. You put a couple of little batteries in there, screw the cap on, put it in the chamber, but you need a distance of 25 yards, and basically the idea is more or less the same. You line the crosshairs up with the red dot. But I find that the kit that I showed in this video just gives me better, more accurate results. So this, not to say that this is a bad thing. This is worth having for sure. It's a good thing to pack with you. Say, you know, just to check while you're out there. If you're not sure, just throw it in your pack. It's light, it's small, you can take it to the range with you, and it doesn't take up a lot of room. This is definitely worth having. It has its place, but to me, I'd rather have the other one for at home because I find it's more accurate. It's giving me better results. That's my take on it. So you have options. You could use a laser bore sighter. You could use whatever. You could even pull the bolt out of the chamber, look through it, and line the crosshairs up with what you see on a target. But each method has its advantages and disadvantages. Point is, I would encourage everyone to learn as many skills as they can and do things themselves and gain as much knowledge as they can, because it's empowering, it saves you money to know how to do things, and it's never a bad thing to learn things, to learn skills and pick those things up. I think it helps you grow in your knowledge and your ability to I think it also helps with the fundamentals of shooting, to understand how your firearm works. Maybe it doesn't, I don't know. But I like to know how things work. I'm a mechanic, so I have a curious nature. And there's a lot of pride in being able to do things yourself, I think. Just recently I helped a buddy build a custom hunting rifle. We used an old Mosin Nagant action, and I drilled and tapped the receiver for a scope mount and bent a custom bolt handle for it, and we did some things to the trigger. And cut the stock to fit his shoulder and all that. And like I said, there's a lot of pride in being able to do that, in having those skills and knowing how to do things, and building something that isn't out of the box. I mean, that's something else entirely. You can take pride in changing your own oil, I suppose. But anyways, like I said, this applies to many things. Acquire as many DIY skills as you can. This has been the Rolling Stone Mechanic, the stone that keeps you rolling.